Hello, everybody. Um, first question is about disparity. I have to say that I was not really shocked that disparity is related to poor health and birth outcomes. Because, we've heard that before, I've read that before. But I was surprised, though, that the readings indicated that there is still such a lack of access to prenatal care and contraceptive care for women. It seems like, or at least in my area, it seems like there are so many resources to pay for health care and especially prenatal and contraceptive care in my area. And again, that's just in my community, in my state. I know that there's a lot of resources for people who can't afford health care to be able to get good prenatal care and contraceptive care, and there's educational opportunities as well to help improve prenatal care. That's, of course, assuming that a patient is willing to seek out that care. So that kind of surprised me, but I would imagine that it is probably different in other areas. I don't know what every state is like, or, other areas of the world either, I'm sure. But I definitely was aware that disparity obviously is going to contribute to poor health outcomes. And I think that the most important factor involved in taking action against disparity is education. So there's this vicious family cycle, it seems like, of disparity that is handed down from generation to generation. And I think in order to break that cycle, it's essential that education is going to have to play a role. And it just kind of seems to be the missing factor in all of this. And, whether it's education in schools to help set children up to be successful early on, or if it's education for adults so they can provide their own economic stability that will allow for, then hopefully better healthcare would follow, if they can afford it. And then, there's lots of ways that I think education can play a role. But in a perfect world, if we could provide education for the whole country, that would be incredible. And I just think that inserting this education piece would make a significant impact on disparity. On the other hand, we know that this is not really a current reality. Everyone does not have access to education. And so I believe we must, as practitioners, or as humans in general, just really make it our mission to educate families so they can have the information and tools that they need to know how to lead a healthy lifestyle and to participate in family planning and health promotion activities and things like that. So I think, especially as providers, we really need to be educating people so that if they don't have these tools when they come to you, can send them with educational tools and individualize it for that person, something that is going to work for them. Individualization I feel like is super important, because if you give someone this extravagant healthcare plan and these things of health promotion that you need them to do, but they don't have the money to go to the store and buy a prenatal vitamin, or they don't have the money to go and buy healthy foods, you need to be aware of that and individualize it to the patient as a practitioner so that you can write them a script for a prenatal vitamin so they can go and get it at the pharmacy so that it's covered by their insurance. So as a provider, I really hope that to make a difference that I can help guide families from all socioeconomical statuses into health promoting practices through education, and also making my services readily available to all people regardless of their economic status. Okay, so racism. Next question is about racism. I have not ever seen an outward expression of racism at work that I can recall. I am absolutely certain that there is definitely racism in healthcare. I just have not experienced it firsthand that I can remember. But what I have seen a lot of at work is heavy judgment based on a patient's background, regardless of race. I've seen low-income women, inmates, and women with addictions who are heavily judged simply because of their economic status or because of their past choices. And at the facility I work in, we sometimes have inmates as patients who they'll come in with a correctional officer, and unfortunately I've seen nurses actually look up their legal record, because it's public information, to see what the patient is incarcerated for. And I think that can be a little bit sticky, because I personally choose not to do that, because I don't want the person who did look it up to tell me what they did, because I don't want to know what my patient is incarcerated for unless it is pertinent to their care, because I don't want anything to alter my care for my patient. And as a human, I think we all come with biases, and all that's going to do is add on more bias that you're going to have to overcome, and it may change the way you view them, and that's not going to be helpful for their health care. So I would prefer to treat them as a human regardless of what they did, and I just don't want to know. But I have seen that where I work, and it's unfortunate. I think working with people as your job can get kind of messy. In our line of work, it's so essential that we really learn what our personal biases are and be self-aware and put those aside to care for everyone equally. And sometimes I think that can be hard because, like I said, we all come from different life experiences. We have different backgrounds. So my favorite way to overcome this is to present myself with a challenge. So I really enjoy taking what some people would consider the difficult patients that nobody else wants, and making it a challenge for myself to care for them and to really see if I can break through those barriers, whatever they may be, and really just make a difference for that patient. And then I'm proud of myself when I've overcome this challenge and really gotten through to this patient, or really broke through those barriers that other nurses were experiencing. So I kind of recommend that to people when I train them, to try that whole make it a challenge thing, instead of being like, oh no, I have this patient, oh my gosh, and using those judgmental factors, which hopefully is not race, but any sort of bias. But really just take on that challenge to overcome barriers and biases, whatever they may be. So the next question is about freedom for birth, women's rights in childbirth. That video, I was floored when watching. It is inconceivable that there are women who do not have the basic right to decide where to birth, and even more so that midwives cannot assist them without fear of persecution. I also cannot believe that women are reported to Family and Child Services if they choose a certain route to go regarding their baby's health or during labor. That is crazy. But it's not that far off from what I've seen in my own hospital that I've worked in. At one point in time, they were saying that it was going to become our policy that if a family chose not to give their baby a vitamin K injection, that they would contact social services. And I understand the basis for that and why on paper this may seem like a good idea, but it's really getting big brothery. And this video kind of reminded me of what I'm talking about in my own practice. And so, oh gosh, it's just crazy. And, okay, it starts with a vitamin K injection. And then, like in this video, then you get to the point where parents are being reported because they don't want to have a C-section because it's seen as neglect, because the physician or the healthcare providers think that they should have one. So I think it's just a very slippery slope when we start telling people how they are allowed to carry out their own health care. And as midwives, I think it's our role to really encourage women and know that they're in control of their bodies and that they have a choice, and really dive in deep and give them evidence-based options and discuss risk and benefits with them so that they can be guided into making informed decisions of their own, and they still have that free will, but yet they also have the power of the information and education to make good decisions. And so I think that really that is our role as healthcare providers, is to guide people and give them the information and discuss risks and benefits, but obviously never tell them or enforce a way to carry out their own health care, especially in labor and birth. Free birth and other birth movements are, in my opinion, some of the most important human rights movements to date, and we have a long way to go to grow in this area in our country and worldwide, obviously, after watching that video. The next question is about how women are socialized to healthcare and pregnancies. So, from what I've seen, I think women really learn about healthcare from the most intimate and direct resource that they have access to, which is their family and friends. You know, their inner circle is often their greatest influence in pregnancy and health in general. And so it really goes back to that familial cycle I referenced before. If they see their mothers and their sisters not seek prenatal care or not take prenatal vitamins, or, whatever it may be, that may be all that they are exposed to and all that they really know. So they're likely to repeat those choices. Just with any other choice in life, it's the culture, it's the family aspect of it, and that nurture versus their environment. That's all that they know. The last question is about our Moment of Truth website. So ways that I think I can be involved professionally in regards to that. On that website, they have the Share with Women handouts, and they were phenomenal. I read through a lot of them, and I plan to use these handouts and this resource for education as a midwife. But I also actually plan to add these to our education resources where I work, because some of these would be super appropriate for things that we normally educate about, and I love those handouts. So I'm going to implement those professionally now, and hopefully as a midwife as well. Second way professionally to be involved with this, I saw on the website there was a link that you could go to register as a midwife, so that way when women get on there, they can look up midwives near them, and then I would be able to be seen as on that registry, so that if women are seeking midwifery care, they could find me. And lastly, the Moment of Truth mission statement is to improve women's health and maternity care in the United States by reintroducing midwives and midwifery care as important options that should be the norm for women's healthcare services. So I really liked that, and I would like to make this my goal for myself as a midwife, and really strive to improve maternity care in the United States, and to also advocate for midwifery care, and always, of course, advocate for evidence-based care as well. Thank you for listening, guys.